We are live. Welcome, 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 Liberty lovers. This is Matthew Struck with another Why Libertarian Live. Before we get rolling, if you're watching this live, I am monitoring comments. If you have any comments, questions, please throw them my way. If you do end up watching the recording on this one, please hit subscribe, like, comment, share, hit the notification bell, retweet. Wherever you end up seeing this, please help us get the message out. This is a really interesting one. We are a week away from election. A week away from election night. Actually, less than a week if you take into account that we got a less than a full day going here. And so we are basically a week from what most people are saying could be doomsday. We're a week from what people say could be a resounding approval of the American people for democracy. If you believe the Democrats, we're a week away from Armageddon. All of that stuff gets heaped into this election. And quite frankly, I think a lot of it's a bunch of bunk. I think it's all propaganda. But there's some really legitimate policy conversations that we can have here. And like I said in the title, I would love to speak to 3 reasons why Republicans should really entertain voting for Joe Jorgensen on November 3rd if they haven't already voted early. All right. Before we get rolling, did you know that there are currently three endangered species of rhino on the planet? Did you also know that if you took those rhinos and you relocated them to Washington, D.C., that they would replenish their numbers pretty much overnight? I think we're up to our elbows in rhinos. It used to be, the Libertarian Party's saying or motto is we're the party of principle. The Republicans used to try and say that they were also a party of principle or principles. Okay. I just don't see it. I don't see it. You have a left-leaning New York Democrat as the current president. You have deficit spending that has not been curbed. You have, let me redirect you to my favorite metric of just how life in the United States is going, and it's the national debt clock. This thing keeps ticking away, and every single one of those Republicans in DC who vowed, to be fiscally conservative and be principled, they haven't done anything about it. Whether it's the legislature, whether it's, the president, none of them have been able to crack this. And in fact, they are accelerating the descent financially in this country. And they purported themselves to be the voice of reason, and they were elected as that. And I do not think for a second that they are actually that now. Okay. It is completely evident. The Tea Party had a moment. They had a moment. And then they just got swallowed up by the machine, right? So if you are a Republican voter, or traditionally a Republican voter, and you are disenfranchised by the lack of what I would say true, conservative principles on the part of a lot of the Republicans that are out there, this is a call to you. This is a call to you to vote your principles, to vote your conscience when it comes to this election cycle. All right. And I'm going to focus on 3 things. I'm going to focus on gun rights. I'm going to focus on the deficit in the Fed, and I'm going to focus on just the general idea of free market capitalism. Okay. Do not let people tell you that Trump is pro-Second Amendment. Do not for a second entertain someone telling you that he is pro-Second Amendment. A lot of people point to, the NRA backs him. Okay. Let me tell you, the NRA has basically been appeasing the gun, the gun control lobby for essentially decades. And they've been slowly but surely negotiating away gun rights. Okay. The Second Amendment very explicitly, I wish I could pull up a copy of the Second Amendment and the actual wording, but it literally says shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. That doesn't mean, we get to remake up the definition later on. Okay. This idea of the living, breathing Constitution when it comes to things like the Second Amendment it's a load of crap. It's a load of crap. And the second, the Republicans will tell you that they are defenders of the Second Amendment. And that is not true at all. I just look at what Elliott Sherman is fighting against with Dan Crenshaw down in the second congressional district in Texas, something that has Crenshaw's backing or his fingerprints on the bill, and something that Trump is completely behind is red flag laws. Red flag laws, they sound like a good idea, right? Someone has had an issue in their past. Let's stop them from having a firearm. The problem with red flag laws is it will not just stop people who shouldn't have a firearm. It will stop law-abiding citizens of the United States from being able to, make good on their Second Amendment rights. And that is a complete farce of what was intended with the Second Amendment when it was originally drafted. Okay, do not let someone tell you for a second that Trump and the rest of the Republicans are pro-Second Amendment. Jo Jorgensen is the only candidate that has made it a point within her campaign and within her platform to say that the Second Amendment should not be infringed. No magazine, restrictions, no butt stock bans, no red flag laws. She is as pro-Second Amendment as any candidate in this race. All right. Number two, the deficit in the Fed. Again, I showed you the deficit. We're over 27 trillion. This is like the existential threat to the United States. When Ron Paul ran on this earlier on in 2012 and 2016, he was spot on, and people completely have stopped looking at it. They've stopped thinking about it. It's the proverbial family that has credit card debt and stops opening the statements. It is scary. It is really scary, especially considering the fact that the deficit is projected to double within essentially either by the end of Trump's second 4 years, if he's there, or if Biden gets in, it might even double within 2 years. Okay, based off of all of the spending that's been promised within his platform, especially if the legislature picks up seats and if the Republicans lose the Senate. That could be absolutely catastrophic. But I got to tell you, I have no faith in the Republicans being the party of principle when it comes to the deficit or spending. They pass through tax cuts without spending cuts. How do you do that? That is not responsible whatsoever. It used to be you had to have both to be considered a true fiscal conservative. That doesn't exist anymore. Fiscal conservatives are tax cuts only, but keep all of the spending exactly where it's at because we have no hope of cutting the spending. The last part is just the idea of free market capitalism. We do not live in a free market society. The socialists and the progressives, they try and tell you that the free market and capitalism has caused all of the corruption that we have. That is a load of crap as well. Basically, it's cronyism. It's bought public officials is what it is. It is bought public officials that cause all of that fraud and all of that cronyism and all of the leveraging of regulations to make it so that Amazon and Walmart and the big companies benefit. Meanwhile, the real lifeblood of America, the small business, the mom and pop, the medium-sized business that's going to grow from zero to a dozen or 2 dozen or even a couple hundred employees, they get the short end of the stick because the regulatory process is co-opted by those folks that can pander to or get pandered to because they have money to fund campaigns and to lobby their brains out. Okay, do not let an investment bank, do not let a large retailer, do not let these large companies, for-profit companies, cry poverty when it comes to regulation, because they're essentially sitting at the table crafting the regulation so that they both get to play the victim, but at the same time it boxes out other competitors. Okay, this is never more evident than when it comes to basically the regulation of social media. If you want social media companies to be regulated based off of them kind of being some kind of public utility, you are essentially guaranteeing that you will have a monopoly. No one will ever topple Facebook. No one will ever topple YouTube or Google. if you end up with regulation in terms of the liability, the online liability laws. Because if they get a seat at the table when those regulations are drafted, they will make it so that, you know what, we might lose a little bit of money, but it will stop everyone else from being able to eat our lunch. Every single one of these positions, Jo Jorgensen has taken a pro-free market approach. She has taken a pro-conservative financial, fiscal conservative approach. She has taken a pro-Second Amendment approach in her campaign. All of those things should swing you. If you are not sold by a non-conservative Republican like Trump, if you're not sold on him, please, please, please do not sit out. Do not write in Mickey Mouse or Big Bird. Please think about voting for Jo Jorgensen. She is a credible candidate who is pro the Constitution, is basically what it amounts to. Every single Republican will hang their hat on the fact that Amy Coney Barrett is a nomination because she is a constitutional judge. Well, where is the Constitution? Where are the constitutional principles when it comes to things like deficit spending? Where are the constitutional principles when it comes to Second Amendment rights? Okay, you have to be consistent. Me personally, I'm always looking for consistency. I would like a consistent political platform. I almost don't even want to have to ask the question as to where a politician sits on a certain issue, because if I know their principles, I don't even have to ask the question. If I'm asking the question, it's basically just a confirmation of the principles that they're based off of, okay, that they run on. I would rather that be the case. I do not want to hold my breath and sit there and, wait to see what Joe Biden's answer this week is on fracking, okay? I don't want to hold my breath and wait to see what Donald Trump's opinion is on the Second Amendment, okay? Or hear the lip service that he pays when on the back end, he allows the negotiation away of certain types of magazine capacities and firearms and things like that. That is not the nature of the Second Amendment. The nature of the Second Amendment, the nature of deficit and federal spending, the nature of free market capitalism, these folks pick and choose their battles. They pick and choose their positions based off surveys and public sentiment. I put out a tweet earlier today. I will stand by this tweet. The way that a politician is they change their campaign stance based off of where their rally is happening. Okay? It happens all the time. And it gets caught on video and no one gets called on it. No one. Trump, Biden, it doesn't matter who. They never get called on it. Okay? So those are the top 3 reasons why Republicans should think about voting for Jo Jorgensen. Please, please, please think about it, especially if you're in a deep blue state. If you're in a deep blue state, please think about voting for Jo Jorgensen. Trump doesn't have a shot. Let's make sure that we get a third party on there that can actually, trim some votes off of the major party candidate that's running against you that has more of a shot or basically has a monopoly on the state that you're in. All right. Keep an eye out for tomorrow dropping. I have Larry Sharp's interview on our YouTube channel. Check it out. If you are not connected or subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do it. Go on YouTube. Just search for #WhyLibertarian, one word, #WhyLibertarian. We are also on Twitter @LibertarianY, and we'll be coming at you every single week, Tuesday, 5